All right. Good morning, bows and bow ties. Welcome back to my channel, Black Opinionated Woman, also known as a bow if you're new to my channel. So look, I was on TikTok this morning while I was making my coffee and packing my lunch. And this man gets on there and he had behind him a screen snap of an article back from 2022, 2023, something like that. And he was talking about, like, hey, did you hear about this? There were a group of millennials, I think there's like three of them, that got together and they purchased an old, I guess it was a high school. I don't know where it was. I could probably go back and try to look and see, but that's not the point. So they purchased this old high school. I don't know if it was in an urban area or like a rural area. I didn't deep dive enough because that's not the point. Well, kind of is the point, but they purchased, I think it was three of them, they purchased this high school. It was like, I don't know if it was abandoned or shut down or whatever. And I think it was originally going for like $250,000, $300,000 or something like that. And then they were able to get it down to like $175,000 after some inspections or something. I don't know. What they did was they got it down to $100,000. They took this high school and they turned it into apartments. And so the guy that was not reporting, but he was just saying, "Did you hear about this?" So he was, there were other pictures of what they did, like how they renovated this high school. And they kept the original gym. I mean, obviously updated, it looks brighter. They kept the original floor. They made it so that now, if you're in this building, you have a place where you can go play basketball whenever you want, just stuff like that. And so they just modified this high school so that, whatever. And I thought that was pretty interesting because I'm like, we could do this in our rural areas, we can do this in our urban areas. So for those of you who are still new to my channel, there was a period of time where in some of my videos, I would talk about how we need to teach um, our people about urban gardens and stuff like that. So I said, like, I know they would never do this because that if we're growing our own vegetables and that type of thing, well then people will get healthier, right? And they can't have that. So they need people to be sick so that they have to treat people. Gotta have sick people so you have to treat people. But what I'm saying is, if we take charge of these areas, I'm talking about we the people, we go in, whether it's we help plant these urban gardens and all these other things, right? We go in and we do those things. If we go in and purchase these like old warehouses, schools, whatever like that, and use them for multi-purposes, like repurpose them for some other things, right? We could really change the overall trajectory and health and status of like entire communities. You know, we could have these places where people have affordable housing, and maybe you don't have your palace, but you have affordable housing and you have a place where you can go play basketball, whatever. You have like these common areas, you can do things, right? You, and now, granted, I know that I'm thinking very optimistically because I know that people know how to tear up some stuff. There's always a couple of bad actors. You do something good and then people tear it down. But couldn't that be, like, if you can imagine the possibilities of what that would look like for whole cities where people really invested in this city and having these affordable places for people to stay and access to better food and access to, well, which is better nutrition, but access to um, just schools and stuff, right? Like, what if we grabbed some of these old places and brought in people, and I haven't thought it all out because granted, I just saw it this morning, and we brought in people who were willing to teach, we educate people. And but maybe the teaching looks a little different. Like maybe we bring in people who are going to teach multiple foreign languages too, and we immerse our kids into something, and they're exposed to something, and they're like, and they see the possibilities because they've been exposed to a foreign tongue. Because it's not like our kids are all like fluent in Spanish. We don't get an opportunity to practice that here. But what if you were fully immersed? Like I think of all the possibilities, and I know I'm going way off script here, and because the point of this was to say that there were a group of people who got together. They purchased a building, turned it out, they repurposed it for something that was useful for the community. Now, I'm sure there's a financial component to it, but still, it's like if it was like a win-win, right? They can get something out of it, but also people get something out of it. I know we have resources in these communities, right? So maybe we don't have the same resources as the masses, but we have resources in these communities. We have people who could come in and help develop these things. And it sounds really easy for me to say. It's kind of like, well, what are you doing, right? And I get that. But I'm thinking about en masse, right? Because you'll get the people who want to do the ground root stuff the day in and day out of making sure, I don't know, but it's hard to explain. But to get it started, it's just to get a place, get an edifice. To get it started would be like, hey, if you have your own company, your company can come in and offer at a discount to, I don't know, gut the building or gut the plumbing. I'm just making this up. I'm starting to sound like Dr. Umar, but I don't know what he's doing with his school. I just think he likes to talk. But I'm like, but what if people really did that? What if they really did that? They got together, they got an abandoned building and turned it into a boarding school? What if they turned it into an apartment complex? What if they turned it into a local hospital, right? What if they turned it into a building that actually has banks, a grocery store, a clinic? I'm speaking off the top of my head, right? So that now people don't have to travel so far. What if we did those things? The possibilities of it. And I know I sound ridiculous when I have these thoughts. I'm sitting here driving in, and then it's like I pause because I imagine so many things. But I just thought that was such an interesting story. I don't want to talk about P. Diddy's trial. I don't care, right? Like I'm not interested in that. But that story was quite compelling. Um, I don't want to get into hearing about 47s being called talco, even though it's kind of funny. I don't know. That story just kind of like resonated with me. I don't know. So anyway, let me know your thoughts. I'm not going to belabor this. Let me know your thoughts and make sure you subscribe to my channel because I'm amazing. Okay? I am amazing in every way I can practically do.